The state of Florida executes child rapist killer Mark Dean Schwab while his victims' parents watch. Governor Crist's breathtaking plan to buy out U.S. Sugar and save the Everglades is still getting raves and reviews, and state officials gear up for a big blowout of a multi-billion-dollar hurricane. All that this week on Power Play with our guests, John Kennedy, Bureau Chief of the Orlando Sentinel, and Paul Fleming, State News Editor of Gannett News Service. Florida's first execution in 18 months by lethal injection. Last one was a disaster. How did this one turn out, gentlemen?
I think it went well as executions go. Everything procedurally worked as the state had hoped it would. The protocols, the administration of the 3-drug cocktail that is given to the inmate through injection seemed to work its magic. And the inmate Mark Dean Schwab, accused and convicted 17 years ago for murder, was put to death.
So let's talk a little about his victim who had been raped and murdered.
Junie Rios Martinez. It's a very sad story, an 11-year-old child that was abducted, sexually assaulted, and murdered by Mark Dean Schwab. The community in Brevard County was very interested in this case. One of my papers, Florida Today, covered it extensively. The parents were witnesses to Mark Dean Schwab's execution. No, victims' families often are there.
But these ones were passionate about it.
Yes, they were. The father expressed great frustration that he said it took everything he had not to pound on the glass as a witness to the execution on Tuesday night. Very emotional, and obviously so.
Well, how about this? The governor is asked about this and invokes the kind of language that any governor has invoked about the somberness of this responsibility.
Yeah, I think for Governor Crist, this was a moment where he has to pause and reflect. Governor Crist, however, I think has always been very straightforward in his support for the death penalty and for the administration of justice quickly, as he describes it. He felt in this case this was a delayed justice, and I think he feels like no second thoughts about this.
All right,
Governor Crist, a law and order governor from his days in the legislature and as Attorney General, certainly did express that this was a somber moment.
Okay, quickly, let's take a review on this breathtaking news, of the past week. The governor's plan to buy out U.S. Sugar, essentially, and save the Everglades. Still being reviewed, and how so?
Well, it's something that it's remarkable in that, forever U.S. Sugar was synonymous with Big Sugar and a big political player in the state, too. The idea for many of us who've been watching this industry for a long time, it's stunning that it could be gone. And in this case, a $1.75 billion deal crafted by Governor Crist with sugar ready to sell out. And it looks like it's going to happen, most of it being financed through the taxpayers of the South Florida Water Management District.
And the devil is in the details on how this gets worked out. As John said, it is monumental. But how the state is going to pull off this purchase, how the management of that land is going to fit into Everglades restoration, and if, after spending $1.75 billion to buy out U.S. Sugar, the resources are still going to be there to undertake the other programs and projects that are necessary to fix the Everglades.
But historic, almost a joining of hands of former adversaries in this announcement, and while there's a lot of work to do, clearly a huge step forward for the Everglades potentially.
Oh, it's a huge jump. It certainly got headlines and will continue to as in the next 7 weeks as the further details of this get worked out.
Well, we're still early in the 08 hurricane season, and state officials have done something to prepare not just for the season, but for the financial blow that might come from a major storm. What happened?
Well, the State Board of Administration meeting has agreed. It's a little bit of a still clouded decision because of some procedural matters involved in this, but it appears that they're willing to spend a little more than $200 million to get about $4 billion in bond authority from Warren Buffett, the investor of Berkshire Hathaway fame, where That money would be made available if the state's cat fund was completely drained by major hurricanes this season. The state was sweating this out because they felt that they didn't have enough money to cover catastrophic storms.
As the state in the last 2 years has taken on a lot more risk covering insurance companies, the question was if that bonding authority would be there in the markets that exist today.
So above $25 billion, this is sort of the safety valve of $4 billion more. All right, we're going to turn our attention now to your respective power plays of the week. Let's start with you, Paul.
I'm going to say that Bob Hackelman, a Fort Lauderdale attorney who this week was elected chairman of the Supreme Court Nominating Commission, that in the next 6 weeks will forward names to Governor Christ to replace two justices on the Florida Supreme Court, and next year we'll do the same.
Shaping the judicial branch, clearly.
Naming a majority of the 7-member Florida Supreme Court.
John?
I'm going to give it to Warren Buffett.
Like he doesn't have enough already.
Right. He just needs a little bit more. But I mean, in this deal that the state has brokered on the cat fund, Buffett wins either way. He gets more than $200 million in the state for making his money available, and if the state needs that $4 billion, he's going to get 6.5% interest on it.
Okay, John Kennedy, Paul Fleming, thank you both very much. For the latest political news, go to the Safety Review, and we'll see you next time on Power Play.